Hello, everyone. Jason here, and it's another edition of Jason and the Gentleman. And of course, to have the part of the show, you need to have the gentleman of mixed martial arts, the gentleman Josh Hill. Josh, how are you doing? Enjoying everything up in the new part of the woods for you?
Yeah, man. We're good. It's now it's starting to get cold. Actually, this windstorm really caused some shit out here. Look, I had a huge tree right beside my house, and we was just walking out the door, then all of a sudden, smash! It blew it right down. So I've been cutting it up in pieces for the last day and a half. It's been a chore.
Well, as long as no one was hurt or no damage was done to the house, I think that
Yeah, we're
it's
good.
just it's more just work, as you said. But
Yeah.
yeah, that windstorm was crazy this past weekend, and thankfully no one got damaged or anything like that. But Josh, moving on to the realm of mixed martial arts, there was a big storm in the lightweight division as there was the interesting story of Paul Felder going from the commentary booth to fighting inside the octagon against former UFC lightweight champion Rafael dos Anjos. And honestly, I thought Felder, for a guy that really didn't have much training for this fight, just training for a triathlon, I thought he looked pretty good, but it was just not enough to make up ground on someone as talented at Rafael dos Anjos.
Yeah, man. And this is I was, I actually I like Dos Anjos quite a bit. I think he's an awesome fighter, and but how could you not be rooting for Felder in this one? He's just such a guy that can do it all, really, and just a class act and a hell of a fighter, man. And yeah, taking the fight on 4 or 5 days notice against a guy like RDA, and going 5 rounds too. That's a big feat right there. And yet, like you said, he did well. I think he did. He's a tough guy to put away, regardless of who he's fighting. So that's one thing he's always had going for him, is just his toughness. And even in his losses, they've been relatively close fights. But yeah, man, he looked really good. And he went out there and gave RDA a hell of a fight. And you just respect the guy even more.
Yeah, totally do. And I think that fight proved that he has a lot left in the tank, does
Yeah.
Felder. And, that's what he said in his post fight because he was kind of dwelling on retiring after the Hooker fight in February. And now he's, realized he's got a lot left. He's not going anywhere, to use his verbatim post fight. And I'm excited to see what Felder does. I don't know where you go with him in the matchmaking process, but the winner here was Dos Anjos. And Dos Anjos proved that even getting up in age as he is, 155 is his division.
Yeah, for sure. How old is DeSantis? Do you know? 37, 6, 7, around
Yeah,
there? I don't know.
I think he's around 36. Let's
Yeah.
just clarify that. Yeah, he's 36.
36, yeah. I think Felder's 36 as well. So yeah, both guys, they're definitely, not spring chickens, but they still obviously both of them have a lot left in the tank and both look really good and both look like they compete in that top five in that killer division. So there's lots of matchups you can make with both the guys. They'll probably want to do that RDA Islam, you're supposed to have the original fight. We'll see if they do that one. If not, there's Ferguson, there's Gaethje, there's Chandler, there's Oliveira. There's a lot of guys they can match up both guys with.
Well, what do you think though? Because post-fight, Dos Anjos said he wants to fight Conor McGregor next. Conor on social media said he'd accept a fight, and we have to remember that Dos Anjos was supposed to
Yeah.
fight Conor McGregor back in March of 2016 at UFC 196. Fortunately, he broke his ankle. That led to the Nate Diaz, and history of mixed martial arts was changed forever. But this fight in a way does kind of make some sense for both guys, pending what happens at the end of McGregor Poirier in January.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, yeah, I'd like to watch it. I mean, I think everybody calls out Connor just because that's what you do. Because there's a lot more eyes on you when you're fighting a guy like McGregor. So everybody calls out Connor, and I rightfully so. But yeah, it's that fight is what, like 5 years removed probably around since then. So there's been a lot has changed. Both guys have gone up in divisions, and but I think it could be an interesting matchup. I think stylistically, it probably, Connor. I probably lean towards Connor, to be honest. I could see him catching him on the feet and being able to, evade his shots and stuff the takedowns and knock RDA out. But he's tough, man. He's well rounded, and I like to see it.
I'd like to see it too, just because it was supposed to happen, and obviously the injury, whatever took it, and then you really never thought Dos Anjos would get into that kind of a landscape again with Conor McGregor. And Conor, I don't know what the real plan is. Like, he could potentially be fighting for a vacant lightweight championship, or he could just be on this season where they really just give him guys in the top tier to really change the outlook of how people perceive him. So I don't know, but I could totally see it happening, and I'd just be happy for Dos Anjos, because this is a guy that's been with the UFC since 2008 that would finally get that big payday fight.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, who knows what they'll do with Conor, like you said, but like for him to get a title shot at 55, I don't think that's worthy. You know what I mean? He hasn't got a win at 55. I don't know since when, but he's coming off his fight. Was at 170 with Cowboy, right? Was it Cowboy?
Yeah, it was 170. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he's got to have one fight at 55. I mean, this is just me talking, but one fight at 55, one win against the top guy. Then maybe you can give him a crack at a title.
Well, sure, but we know how the UFC tends to roll in that aspect. But one more thing on Felder, like obviously an amazing story. He had no grappling going into this, but I thought his post-fight was really interesting, because this card had a lot of fighters miss weight, and then two of those fights were scrapped because of the weight cutting complications, and he was out there pretty much giving the business to those fighters, saying, I had to cut like 22 pounds in 5 days, and I fought my ass off. Like, everyone needs to get their stuff together. And I just thought it was a real compassionate speech, almost like a Dusty Rhodes level promo. Yeah. But I thought, you know what, we need to hear more of that. More fighters like that speak their mind openly about weight cutting, because this was a disaster in terms of top level guys missing weight.
It's been an ongoing theme for the last. I mean, it seems like the last year or two, it's just been rampant, like guys missing weight all the time, and I don't understand. I mean, I get it; people are cutting a tremendous amount of weight, but it's just, man, yeah, I agree with everything Paul said. I think it's, if you can't make the weight, you go up a weight class, and if you're can make the weight and you're just having trouble, hire a dietitian or hire a nutritionist or hire somebody that can help you manage this and do the right work, because, like I said, I think we talked about before, penalties should be much, much higher if you miss weight. I think it should be like 50% of your purse. Then I think you'll see a lot less weight cuts, because it's, especially at that level, I bet if you 50% of the purse, you're looking at like 100 grand, you know what I mean? That's huge money that would be lost or won if you miss weight. So the penalty needs to be steeper.
Well, actually, the XFC, which debuted last Wednesday, their penalty for missing weight is 50%. Kenny Cross missed weight, and he got fined the 50%. He won and advanced in the tournament, but lost 50% of his purse.
Awesome. I love that, man. I agree with it. And all that money, sometimes too, commissions, I don't know why, it's bullshit. They're just government stealing more money. They say if they fine you 20%, 10 goes to the commission, 10 goes to the fighter, which is absolutely ridiculous. Like, there's no reason why the commission should get the money. It should be the fighter that's going in the cage with the other guy that's missing weight. But I like to see that. I like to see the 50%. Yeah, it's much needed.
It totally is. And I mean, I think if a up and coming promotion like the XFC can start the trend, maybe other promotions will start enforcing that, because especially with the UFC this year, tons of people have missed weight, ridiculous amounts. I mean, we've talked about guys missing weight on purpose, so hopefully that the trend goes where the percentages go up on the weight fines. But yeah, I just thought it was a real great speech from Felder for a guy that literally almost died and had cut like 22 pounds to step in the octagon to save a card, where everyone else was like, I'm not going to make the weight, so I'm going to call it a day and rebook me.
Yeah, and that's why I asked Felder if he's doing the fight at 55, because he is a big 55er. So cutting that much weight and four days notice or whatever it was, it's a tough task. So like you said, he must have been in obviously he was in pretty decent shape, because he went 5 rounds and lasted. So most guys are some guys just after they fight, they just they piss off and they don't go to the gym for weeks or a month or sometimes, and then they're really out of shape. But I mean, that's why I always, kind of preached like always stay active, always stay in shape, and always kind of stay somewhat ready for a fight.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, credit to Felder once again for the performance, and credit to Dos Anjos for the win. Anything else really catch your eye on this past Saturday's card before we move on to talking about UFC 255 this coming Saturday?
I was actually at away with some longtime buddies that I haven't seen in a while. So I only caught the main event. I kind of watched a couple of fights here and there, while we're having a fire it back. But that was really the only one I got to really focus and pay attention on.
The only thing really noteworthy would be Chaos Williams, a guy who could have been in the main event, where we were talking about. I don't think they have the names or whatever, but
Yeah.
the knockout from Chaos Williams against Abdul Razak Al Hassan was frightening. And Chaos Williams has been in 2 fights in the UFC, and he's lasted about under 60 seconds. So this is a guy that UFC is really starting to get behind. They put the full fight out actually on their social media, so the UFC is starting to invest themselves in some Chaos Williams.
Yeah, I seen the highlight of the knockout afterwards. It was the straight right down the middle, right. Yeah, that was beautiful shot right down the pipe, and I mean the guy's got the cool name behind it all. Chaos. That's pretty sweet. So I'm sure they're gonna push him and hype him up. And like you said, 2 fights under a minute and 2 finishes. That's pretty impressive.
For sure. I mean, yeah, he does have the cool name. I mean, shout out to his parents for naming him Chaos, and then
Yeah.
he has to live up to that name, and then he does so and then some with his run in mixed
Yeah, 'cause
martial
if he was
arts.
like an accountant named Chaos, it just wouldn't work.
Yeah, definitely don't want no chaos with your money or anything like that. So, but yeah, that was pretty much things that caught my eye for this past weekend's UFC. But moving on to this upcoming weekend, Josh, we're back in the realm of pay-per-view where the flyweights are the focal point of this pay-per-view, as the main event is Davison Figueiredo taking on Alex Perez for the UFC Flyweight Championship, followed by the co-main event of Valentina Shevchenko defending the women's flyweight title against Jessica Maia. And a lot of people are like, oh, there's not enough names, what have you, to sell. But I'm excited to see flyweight as a whole gets a lot of shine on this show.
Yeah, for sure. Valentina. I mean, she's top notch, right? Like she's a big name now. Everybody knows who she is, and she's really, really, really talented. The Maya. I mean, she still kind of hasn't really made a name. Obviously, if she wins this fight, she will. And then as far as the men, the big fight was it was supposed to be Figueiredo and Cody dropping down to 25. But Perez, man, he's good. I've seen a few of his fights now, and he's very well rounded, good striker. But for Figueiredo, that's guys, man, he's good, man. I'm interested to see how this one goes, but I got to pick my money. I'm probably gonna pick the favorites in both fights. I think I'm gonna take Valentina, and I'm gonna take Davidson.
Yeah, I think Figueiredo just brings such dynamic power for that 125-pound. Like, he's rocked some guys and really manhandled Joseph Benavidez in the rematch back on Fight Island. And he's, only lost 1 fight in the UFC. That was to Jussier Formega, where one of Perez's wins is against Formega, who just recently got cut by the UFC, actually. But, like, for Perez, though, this is a guy that's, worked his way up, got a contract on the Contender Series, and, what he did to Formega back at UFC 250 just shattered the leg like Pedro Hizzo style. Very impressed. I'm so excited to see this fight because, as you said, it was supposed to be Cody Garbrandt in here, but Perez gets the opportunity, and he can make the most of it and really make a name for himself and be the first guy from the Contender Series to be a UFC champion.
Yeah, that's a cool point. Yeah, I never thought about that. That'd be big for him. The thing with Figueiredo, I think his biggest thing he has. I mean, he's very well rounded everywhere. His striking, his power, his jiu-jitsu, but his is his confidence. He just kind of tends to just walk you guys down and kind of not so much disrespect their shots, but like have the confidence to walk through everything and continue to put his pressure on. That's what he did with Benavidez, even both fights. So we'll see how Perez can deal with that. And like I said, it's kind of like the Gaethje with Khabib. The leg kicks will be a big factor, but it's hard to throw those leg kicks when you're on your back foot all the time when a guy's pressing forward. So we'll see how he adjusts to that.
Yeah, I'm interested in this one. I think that one for sure, I think, can go the distance, just knowing what I've seen from both guys. But I tend with you, that one, I feel that Davison Figueiredo's just got enough, and having that spotlight on him in his last 2 fights, main events, I think that could be a factor as well, because you're main eventing a paper. There's a lot on you, a lot of pressure on you to go in as champion and come out as champion.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, if I had to put my money down, I think he'll come out the victor, but we'll see.
Well, the co-main event with Valentina Shevchenko and Jennifer Maia, it's a great story for Jennifer Maia because she wasn't even supposed to be here. This is supposed to be Joanne Calderwood.
Right.
Then she beat Joanne Calderwood, so earned the title shot the old school way. She earned it here. And, Shevchenko, she's kind of running through this division. Maia's another challenger, but coming from the legendary shoot-a box with, Vanderlei, Anderson back in the day. Does Maia really have much of a chance, you think, Josh? I mean, it's a fight. Anything can happen. But the way Shevchenko's just been running through the ladies at 125, it's going to be an uphill sledding for her.
I haven't seen enough from her to really give a detailed, description or estimation. But, yeah, it sucks for Calderwood. She was supposed to have the title fight and then ended up taking this fight. Just, she didn't have to. She could have just kind of waited it out, and it kind of bit her in the ass in that sense. But that's the risk you take. So yeah, she earned the shot. But yeah, I don't know, man. We'll see. I mean, like I said, I've only seen her fight Calderwood, and I think I've seen one other fight, and she looked good. But Shevchenko is at that top tier. She is, up here, and the rest of the division is kind of right here. So we'll see if Maia can make that jump and make a name for herself. But it's going to be a tough test.
What do you think if Shevchenko is to get by Maia, Josh? What do you think the UFC does? Because Shevchenko herself is calling for a 3rd fight against Amanda Nunes, and at this rate, it makes the most sense for both of them at some point in 2021.
Yeah, it's just how marketable is it? That's the biggest thing. I agree, and both fights were very competitive. It's not like she got dominated in either of them, so she's right there and definitely could win those fights. But yeah, it's do you really want to do the 3rd one after 2 losses? I know she's kind of run through the division and lack of opponents, but I don't know. I guess so. You know what I mean? It depends on what Nunes is doing with her belts and how long she'll be kind of tied up too.
If anything, though, I think Shevchenko's stock has risen due to her dominance right now at women's flyweight. I think that has definitely helped. There's a lot more the hype machine can get behind her in marketing Shevchenko in this 3rd fight. And as you said, the first 2 fights were real close, real competitive. I think Shevchenko still thinks to this day she won the 1st fight. So I could totally see it because it's a super fight in 2 divisions that are, at least with what Nunes at 145, with 2 women that don't have a lot of options, and they kind of are working themselves way back to finding themselves fighting each other again some point in the new year.
Yeah, I mean, if that would probably be the option, or if not, I could see them if Cynthia wins, Calvillo. Yeah. She's kind of right at the doorstep there. She beats, she's fighting Caitlin
Chookagian. Yeah.
Chookagian, there you go. I think if she gets a win there, I definitely think they could give her a shot. I hope so. Anyway, I've known Cynthia for a long time, trained with her, so hopefully she gets the crack.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about that as well, because as we talked about, this is a flyweight card, but there's some other good fights for both the men and the women in the flyweights, and we'll start with the women there, as you brought it up. Cynthia Calvillo taking on Caitlin Chookagian. Chookagian's a few fights removed from fighting Valentina for the title, and Cynthia is pretty much banging on the door to be the next contender for Shevchenko. I think this is a real excellent matchup, and I think Calvillo right now, she's just built so much momentum up for herself that if Cynthia wins, I don't see how they could deny her that opportunity for fighting Valentina if that's where they want to go.
Yeah, I think so. I think she wins this one. I'm pretty sure she'll probably be the number 1 contender and get the shot. And she's proven that she can, going up to that weight class too, can handle, she fought Jessica Ai, who came down from 35 and had no problem with the size differential there. So yeah, I think she wins this fight. She'll be the next in line.
Yeah, I'm impressed with just how well Cynthia's done here in the UFC. She had a rocky start getting in things rolling in the UFC, but once she got things going, she's on this trend right now and potentially fighting for a title if she's able to get the victory. And the other flyweight match is the men's side, Brandon Moreno, Brandon Royval, which I think is just potentially fight of the night.
Yeah.
Like we saw what Royval did a couple UFC 253 against Kai Kara France, like a round of the year candidate, and Moreno's no slouch in his own right, like a very tough fighter coming out of Mexico.
That's an awesome match, and I'm sure they put that on the card because it could be a replacement if somebody gets injured or misses weight or whatnot. But yeah, that I could see that being a 3-round, action-packed, nonstop dust storm with two guys that are scrappy little guys that just keep going and going. So yeah, I think you're right. That could definitely be a fight of the night.
Well, actually, the way it worked was supposed to fight Perez, but Cody got hurt, so they elevated Perez and then moved Moreno in to fight Royval. Excuse me, Royval was supposed to fight Perez. So, so we have the battle of the Brandons right now. But I think this one's going to be fight of the night. Personally, I think it's in a key spot as well. I believe it's the feature prelim, so a lot of eyes will be on that as well. And this division, more importantly for me, is just getting the eyes it needs because this division almost went away a couple years ago.
Yeah, I was like, I couldn't believe that when I'm a big fan of it. I love the smaller guys. I just love watching the speed that these guys go and the rate that they go and they don't get tired. You know what I mean? Like the cardio is such a huge factor. But it needs more height, needs more depth, needs more contenders and big names and yeah, I love watching the 25er.
Yeah, for sure. And I think for me, my comeback story of the year is the return of the flyweight division because just the talent that's not only just in the UFC, but all around mixed martial arts at 125 pounds. They've been really lighting it up this year and proving why they're one of the more valiant divisions in mixed martial arts. As well, Joaquin Buckley's going to be on this card, who had that highlight reel knockout. So UFC's putting a little stock in him against Jordan Wright. And opening up the pay-per-view, Shogun Rua. So we get to see.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Shogun Paul Craig. So Brazil versus Scotland. Yeah. So Shogun's still rolling, coming off the split decision victory over Rogerio Nogueira. And, this is a rematch. These guys fought at the end of last year. It was a split draw. So, you know what? They get to go out again. And, the style that Shogun's coming up now as he's getting towards, he's just putting those Rock'em Sock'em robot style fights. So I think it's the perfect fight to start off the pay-per-view.
Yeah, for sure. I like that. And it's a big name. It's a legend. I love Shogun, man. He's it seems like he should be a lot older because he's been around for so long, but he started so young, back in the day. But yeah, he's a legend, and I'll always tune in to watch a Shogun fight. So I think it's a great first fight to kick off the card. And that Scottish guy, he's a really, really good jiu-jitsu. I've seen him pull off a couple of triangles on the ground and stuff, and that's an interesting fight. I would like to see how the rematch plays out.
Same with me. I'm just happy to see Shogun still chugging along, and they're giving him opponents that are still beatable for Shogun, because sometimes they give these legends guys that just totally smash them, and you get worried for their safety and whatnot. But I think this is still a winnable fight for Shogun, and the more Shoguns out there, because people that are just coming into the sport need to know the legacy and the legend that is Mauricio Shogun Rua. Yeah,
exactly. You gotta know where it started.
Exactly. Well, Josh, moving on to Bellator this past week. This past Thursday, where the Featherweight Grand Prix resumed, and I have to say this was probably the best Bellator show since coming back from their lockdown, where Patrice Pitbull just proved to me he's one of the best featherweights, not only in Bellator but the world. Like, just a dominating performance against Carvalho. Got him out of there early in the first round, really gave Carvalho no chance, and I don't see anyone really beating Pitbull in this tournament right now.
Yeah, he definitely showed that he's the top dog, man, and it was a flawless victory. I don't even think he got hit really, from what I can remember. But yeah, just he walked Carvalho down and just landed that same combination, that 3-2 combination, a couple times, and dropped him once, and then finished him off. Put him out cold. And the second time he did it, and that was just a huge statement. He's the reason why he's the favorite. He's the champion, and he's a favorite in the tournament. Man, he just showed again his dominance and how he's probably the promotion's top fighter really right now.
Oh, definitely the top fight. Like, and as well, another homegrown guy from
Yeah.
Bellator back in the original days of their tournament style format, and
Mhm.
he just keeps getting better. And I know he called for a fight with Volkanovski. I mean, it's probably not going to happen, obviously, with
No.
them in two different promotions. But if we could have that perfect world of MMA where the best fight the best, I would kind of lean Pitbull right now, just the way he's been on and just how he finished Chandler and then just Carvalho, like he's been dominating his opponents as of late.
Yeah, yeah, man, that would be a really good one. Both guys are short for the division too. Both very stocky, powerful. Both got good striking. If you're gonna go the jitsu, I'd say Pitbull's got the upper hand in the jitsu, and Volkanovski might have the upper hand in the wrestling. So it makes man, that would make for a really interesting fight. I'd love to see that one. I remember
And for
watching Pitbull way back when Bellator came to Aurelia, the casino in Aurelia there, Rama.
Cinerama, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it's Rule Romero fought him back when Pitbull was really a nobody. It was probably one of the first fights of his career in Bellator, and he submitted heel hooked Will with that, and he just kind of came out of nowhere, and then he went on his run and became Pitbull of today. So it was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, I miss those days when Bellator was running at Rama. I went to the last show that was there where another guy that was in the Featherweight Grand Prix, Daniel Weichel, fought and won in the main event against Desmond Green.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, though, for Weichel this past Thursday, things didn't go his way against Emmanuel Sanchez. I thought he did well in the first round, but
Mhm.
Sanchez is just such an animal and just took over that fight from the second round on.
Yeah, yeah, just that conditioning, that constant pressure and movement, and yeah, Sanchez looked good, man. But now he's got to face Pitbull in the semis. So that's an interesting fight. He's got to, I think, really mix it up. Makes you make it a battle of attrition. Really push the cardio of Pitbull and make him get into the later rounds and really just try and wrestle him, tire him out, up down, kind of all levels of a fight, and kind of make it ugly. And he definitely has a chance, but he's fighting Pitbull. Tough task.
It is a tough task. The title will be on the line, but just seeing the reaction though from Sanchez, where he was really excited at the challenge of fighting Pitbull, and I think that shows one that Sanchez is a different breed of fighter, and two, you always do give those fighters that welcome the challenge a little bit of a chance in those fights against someone that's been so dominant like Pitbull.
Oh, of course he wants it, man. He's got the belt right now, right? He's the one that's got the title in the tournament. It's not just another fight in the tournament; it's for the title in the tournament, right? So it's even bigger stakes. So of course that's who he wanted to fight, and he gets the chance to beat him, beat the man. You know what I mean? And become the top guy in the division and in the tournament. So yeah, 100%. I understand why he wants that fight, and he's so excited for it. He's got a chance to shock the world and become the new champion.
And more importantly, though, it's an exciting fight, and
Yeah.
we're at the semis. The other semi will be this Thursday with
Yeah.
Caldwell and McKee. We'll get into that. But the only other thing I wanted to talk about on last Thursday's cards, Aaron Pico. This guy
Yeah.
continues to get better. What a knockout from Pico! I said it last week. He's starting to find his footing, but even more so now. He's really mixing up the boxing with his wrestling.
Yeah, yeah, 100%, man. And he, you've seen it there. He timed. And the thing, he's really long for that division. Is yeah, not just tall wise. I'm talking about like his reach. He's got such a long length, and he showed it there. The guy went for a knee right up the middle, and actually did like a nice technical knee, and pulled his shoulder back and extended the knee. But Pico came right over the top and beautiful timing on it, and cracked him with the overhand right and finished him off. And yeah, man, that guy. It's too bad that he started his career with so many eyes on him. In Bellator, and then didn't get those first few fights in the lower tier promotions, the regional promotions. I think that would have helped him a lot more. Even though he's been a dominant wrestler and boxer for a long time, but yeah, he's coming into his own now, and like I said, he's made the adjustments, and I think that guy is a force to be reckoned with for sure.
I'm just happy to see it because Bellator invested in him like years ago. So he
Yeah.
went and competed in the Olympics and then was available. I was like 2016 Olympics in Rio too. So
Mm.
that's like 4 years ago. So they've invested in him. but they've kept the investment in them. Sometimes these promotions just let people go, like, oh, you're a bust, and you never see from them again. But credit to Bellator for keeping the investment in Pico because it's starting to pay off right now.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I like seeing that. And yeah, he started, his first ever fight, I think he got caught in a guillotine in like 30 seconds or something, which just, kind of sucks and can happen. And then his other fights that he was winning, what I mean? He just kind of got, a little striking happy, knockout happy, trying to go for that knockout and got knocked out himself. But I think, like I said, he's made the adjustments and he's become, much more cerebral fighter and he's picking his shots and becoming much more of a well-rounded martial artist and he's showing that now.
Yeah, I'm happy to see the development and the improvement from Pico, and things are looking real up. And that just shows 145 in Bellator is equally as stacked as what bantamweight is in that promotion right now. And that'll now transition us over to the first semifinal of the Featherweight Grand Prix, where it's Darion Caldwell and McKee fighting this Thursday. I think this is one of the best fights that Bellator's had this year. I'm so invested in it. It's two up-and-coming guys that have had, in Caldwell's case, success in Bellator with some championships. These are two guys that are created through Bellator. And I think McKee could, if the lockdown hadn't happened, may have been one of the breakup fighters of the year because he was set to just skyrocket through Bellator in 2020.
Yeah, this is a good one. I think what is McKee, like 15-0 or 14-0 or something like that?
He is right now. He is 16-0.
16-0. There you go. Yeah, he's been just ripping through competition, and not just like nobodies either. He's beat some good guys, and knocked out Georgi Kakarkin in like 15 seconds, which is definitely no easy task. And Caldwell, man, he was the former bantamweight champ. Won some tough ties. Fought Horiguchi back to back and have two losses there, and then went up in weight class. But it's been proven that it's working for him because he's winning there, and he's that's a good one, man. He's a really good wrestler, well-rounded, but his wrestling is definitely his dominant aspect in MMA. So we'll see if he can implement that against a guy like McKee, and I could see him getting a sub if he wins this fight, but I could see McGee, just getting that knockout too. So this is a good one.
If I had a gun to your head or anything, Josh, who do you have winning this one? I slightly lean McKee. I just think he's got enough dynamics on the feet and enough, just MMA pedigree to stop some of these takedowns from Caldwell.
Yeah, I think I'll go McKee too. I think even if he gets taken down, I think he'll be able to get back to his feet. It might actually happen a couple times in the first round, and then eventually he'll find his distance and whatnot. And I'll take McKee, but it's a close one, man.
It is a real close one. And the other aspect I like about this fight, these two guys don't like each other, and it seems genuine as well. We've talked about how important that aspect of fights are. So I think, for your main event on Thursday to move on to the Grand Prix finals at Featherweight, I think it's one of the most important fights Bellator's had this year. Yeah,
for sure. And it'll be nice to see who the winner of Pitbull and Sanchez fights for the finals of the tournament.
And it's also nice to see how smoothly this tournament has kind of moved on. Like, obviously the pandemic held it up, but Bellator is really picking the pace up with it, and we'll have the finals potentially by like the spring of 2021.
Yeah, I bet you they'll, especially with, Sanchez had a hard-fought fight, so we'll see how he is, but Pitbull didn't take any damage at all. So I'm assuming they'll probably want to get that fight as soon as possible. And then, these guys are fighting this week, and then, like you said, probably around spring, you're probably right, to see the finals.
Yeah, so the co-main event, though, I think is an interesting bout at welterweight for Bellator. Jason Jackson's a guy that's really, starting to find his footing in Bellator as well, taking on former UFC lightweight champion Benson Henderson. Benson moves up here to 170. I mean, if for Jackson to get a win over someone like Benson Henderson would be huge, but Benson's just such a tough guy. Like, you can never count him out.
Benson's a tough fight for anybody for sure. But yeah, he came to Bellator at 170, I believe, or he was in Bellator, he went up to 170, I can't remember, but he did fight 170 and he didn't have much success there. That's a big jump too, right? 55 to 70, 15 pounds. It's not like most of the other divisions where it's only 10 in the lighter weight classes. But yeah, it's we'll see how he does. I'm a big fan of Ben Henderson, that I don't know if he's the first ever, but he's definitely the guy that put the calf kick on the map and kind of made it a thing, which I love using now. So shout out to Ben Henderson.
Yeah, for sure. The calf kick, which was a big part of your win against Jesse Arnett. I do remember that.
Yeah.
So for sure. I mean, some Canadian content as well. Jeremy Kennedy makes his
Yeah.
debut for Bellator. Former UFC, PFL, Brave veteran. So nice to see Jeremy in Bellator 145. Another shark in the pool at 145. And Jeremy's always a tough guy against a real veteran here in Matt Bissonnette.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I like seeing the our fellow Canadians in there, and yeah, Kennedy's the guy that's been in there, with some really good guys, and he's very well rounded. I think I'm not sure what his record is, 15-2, 16-2, or something like that. So, he's good. I think he's a great addition to the bantam or the featherweight roster, and like I said, if he was signed in time, he probably might have been in the tournament. So we'll see how he does here, and he'll probably end up fighting some of the guys in the tournament.
The only other fight to keep mention on here of this card is a bantamweight fight, obviously your division, but Keith Lee versus Rafion Stouts, and I know you definitely got an eye kept on this one, Josh.
Yeah, this was supposed to be me. You know what I mean? That sucks, but yeah, I was supposed to fight Stotts, and yeah, it definitely was a big fight for me. It had title implications for both of us, but yeah, like I said, I got injured. My back has been a disaster. But yeah, it sucks. But yeah, this fight is interesting too, though. I can't wait to watch it for obviously multiple reasons. But Stotts is very good, and Lee. He was a guy. I remember watching him fight in TKO. I think it was at 125, and they were getting Laramie, I believe, and I think it was their debuts because I think I was watching that. I can't remember, but yeah, and I just never thought he be in my division, and I never thought we'd be in the same promotion. But now he's here, and we do actually all three of us have the same management, which is pretty. It's kind of good and bad, I guess. But yeah, they gave it to Keith Lee, and it's a big opportunity for him for sure. He's 2-0 in Bellator as well. So a win, over a guy like Stotts will be huge for him, and same with Stotts. So we'll see. I'm really gonna pay attention to this one. I want the
So
one.
how is your back, first of all, and the next fight back, do those same implications apply for whoever you fight?
Yeah, I have no idea. Depends, I guess, who and when and what's happening. I don't know. It's getting there. It's like taking forever, a lot longer than I wanted to. It's just a pain in the ass, to be honest. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe they'll give me the winner. If not, somebody else. I don't know. We'll see what they want to do and how it lines up with their agenda. So, but it doesn't really matter.
Well, I know you, anyone, anytime, right? That mentality. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, it does suck because I'd like to see you fight again this Thursday and
Yeah.
whatnot. But hey, it's save. We have to wait for the new year, whenever. But hopefully your back is getting better and you can go compete at 100% when you get back in there.
Yeah, yeah. This is definitely also a fight that I did not want to take at 30% and not have a proper, not really any training camp, and a guy like Stotts who he's very well rounded but a great wrestler, grappler. So I would need to be at my best for a guy like that for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, Josh, that's been it's quite an interesting week as well in MMA. I mean, the PFL, they just signed what's his name? Fabricio Verdum. They just signed, so that's a huge acquisition for them in 2021, and a guy I really thought Bellator was gonna make the move
Yeah.
and get, especially with the Fedor fight potentially.
Yeah, that 100%. I thought that was going to happen. It just kind of made sense. But I guess it didn't make sense for whatever reasons. I'm assuming there's probably some money issues or contractual issues that weren't met from both parties or whatever. But big pickup for PFL. Obviously, he's going to be the favorite going into that tournament next season.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we all know that PFL does pay well, so obviously the contract had to be pretty hefty to get someone with the name. And I think it's up there with the Rory signing as the biggest signing in the promotion's history under the PFL name brand.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
So, I mean, we'll see what happens with Verdum coming into 2021 in that tournament. Some fights have been announced today. The one I saw for sure was Uriah Hall, Chris Weidman. So that's for early February for the UFC. I think that's an interesting fight. I mean, these guys fought on the regional scene before, and two guys that are different aspects of their career, and it's really the perfect fight to make sense for both guys. For Weidman to win over Hall, you prove you're back at middleweight, and for Hall, you prove that you really are a serious contender, beating a former middleweight champion.
Yeah, it's a good fight. I like to see that one. It's Weidman's just gotta, he's just got to get back to that, stop being just a striker, and he's got to really mix it up. And especially with Hall, obviously, I think the easiest path to victory with him is to get that takedown and look to submit him or ground upon him. And I think that's what Weidman has to do in this fight to get the win. And obviously the opposite for Hall, keep it on the feet, look to knock him out.
Yeah, for sure. And the other one I saw that they announced was Calvin Kattar, Max Holloway, main event for January 16th. That's an excellent fight at featherweight.
That's a good one. That's a huge fight, well, for both guys, but more so for Kattar, just because it's Holloway. He can make a huge statement and build off the name of a former champ and a legend like Max. But I think that's a fight that you're going to see a 5-rounder, and it'll probably go 5 rounds, and it'll probably be a war.
Yeah, I heard Calvin's management said they had a big fight announced, and this obviously is that fight, and it makes sense for both because, you can't really do Volkanovski versus Holloway 3, even though some feel you should, but it makes sense. Yeah, exactly. And for Kattar, I mean, this is the ultimate test for him. If you're going to be a serious player, you got to find a way to beat the former champ and a dominant champ at that.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with it. And like I said, it's Volkanovski 3. He's gonna have to beat somebody like a Kattar or another one after this to get that, a third fight. It's kind of like the what fight were we talking about? Shevchenko one.
Yeah.
With Nunes. And for Kattar is a huge opportunity, man. Yeah, big time opportunity. A lot of eyeballs on him, and it'd be a huge win.
And the last bit of announcement of people coming back is Horiguchi's coming back after those torn ACLs. He's in the main event for Rizin and New Year's Eve, and hopefully we can find a way for that Rizin Bellator cross promotion again, because I'm excited. I'm just happy to see him back. He's fighting Kai Asakura, so that's a great fight. But him in the Bellator cage, it sucks they had to give up the bantamweight championship there, because that's a guy that was crossover appeal and that old school vibe of putting Japanese MMA back on a certain pedestal that it once was.
Yeah, I love watching the Rizin. That's why one of the just another reason why I wanted to sign with Bellator, because they do that crossover with Rizin, and it reminds me so much of Pride days. So yeah, I can't wait to see him fight again. It sucks because he won both titles. Had to tore his ACL, was out for a long time, and it sucks this pandemic's happening, because that was another thing. I love the New Year's shows. I always wanted to get on one of those, go to Japan for the New Year's and fight out there. That would be so cool. But we'll see. Maybe next year we'll be out of this bullshit and we can do it.
Yeah, hopefully we can be, because I would love to see. I mean, they're obviously doing it again in Japan, and they've had fans in attendance at these events in Japan. So obviously Japan's got something figured out, or at least a sensible way of having it. But yeah, hopefully this pandemic is over. I know we talk about this once every show, but these numbers seem to be getting worse, and situations seem to be whatever. But hey, I mean, it's just making the most of it right now. The thing I do find, though, is just going out shopping, like doing some Christmas shopping, is so many people are out right now and not acting like COVID doesn't exist. So maybe it's the COVID fatigue finally hitting in.
Yeah, man, we talked about it. You can only do it so long. You know what I mean? You got to live a life. You can't just shelter in your home for your life. That's not a life. You know what I mean? So I get it. I don't know. Something's got to be done, or we just got to go on with our lives and see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Josh, we broke down the past weeks of cards. We've previewed 2 big cards for both the UFC and Bellator. That'll do it for this episode of Jason and the Gentleman. And before I let you go, once again, plug yourself out there on social media, and people will be getting at you about now some details of when you're going to get back in there. And that's probably about your back, maybe, because we got to see you out there in the cage.
Yeah, at Gentleman J Hill. Stuff, Twitter, Instagram, and yeah, I'm always available. Shoot me a message.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Josh, it was fun as always chatting with you, chatting the realm of mixed martial arts, and we'll talk again, same bat time, same bat channel, once again next week.
Awesome. See you, brother.